What is the program of the Armenian National Congress for the next 5 years? What will they expect?
We think that the biggest evil in this country is the monopolization of our economy. What we have here is a bunch of oligarchs who use the state power for the sake of their enrichment. In fact, they hijacked the state machine. They are using all the leverages of the state machine for this purpose. The competition is destroyed in the country. The monopolies are everywhere. The state policy encourages imports and strangles exports and competition within the country. So what we are intend to do first is to dismantle this political and economic system, which doesn't serve the interests of citizens. That's why one of the first things that we are going to do is the abolishment of monopolies in this country. We are going to forbid having more than 33% market share in any industrial sector of this country, for any enterprise. To understand how important that is, I want to tell you that, for instance, the imports of sugar are done by one oligarch, the well-known Levon, Zourabyan Alexander, who in fact owns the 99% of the market in the country. The same guy imports rice, flour, other goods of consumption, and there's no surprise that the prices are really inflated in this country. So first thing we want to do is to destroy monopolies. We believe that Serge Sarkisyan, as well as his predecessor, Robert Kocharian, have created this criminal oligarchic system in Armenia, clannish political economic system. And the first thing that we will do in the parliament, if we get the absolute majority, is to initiate a process of impeachment of President Serge Sarkisyan. The farmers in this country, in order to be able to get means for production of the agricultural goods, they take credits from banks, but those interest rates for those credits are very high, so that people fall in the cycle of borrowing money from banks, and this brings the majority of the farmers to the situation when they sell their houses, their lands, and become servants for big landlords. What we are intent to do is to discourage the big landowners. We believe that the optimal size of agricultural enterprise in this country should be something around 5 to 15 hectares, so that the landlord and a farmer is the same person. That is one thing that we wanted to do, is to discourage big landlords and to, in fact, to turn the economy into economy of many. This should be applied to the overall strategy that we plan to implement in, I would say, restructuring our economy. We don't want the economy of big owners, of big enterprises. What we have now is the concentration of the national wealth in the hands of probably 50 families. Those 50 families acquired illegal monopoly rights, illegal tax and custom privileges from the ruling regime. And they are, in fact, strangling the economy. They are impeding the progress of this country. What we want is to restructure this economy. We want small and medium-sized enterprises to be the leaders of this economy. We want the competition to flourish. That's the most important goal of our platform.
What is the status of the Center for Public Oversight of Elections?
The recent elections demonstrate that the power in Armenia cannot be changed through elections. In Armenia, the ruling regime has established a very sophisticated machine of elections fraud and falsification. To understand how big the falsification is, I have to refer to the fact that in the current lists of voters, we have more than 700,000 voters of the people who do not permanently reside in Armenia, but still miraculously vote on the day of elections. The Armenian legislation does not provide for overseas voting. So in order to be able to vote, you have to come and physically be in Armenia. However, as I told already, hundreds of thousands of people somehow vote without coming to Armenia. It's because the authorities have, as I said, established this huge machine of falsification in Armenia. There were other incidents of falsification in Armenia. There was violence during recent elections. Our proxies have been expelled from precincts en masse. We don't believe that this time they will apply the same extent of violence. But what we understand the government is doing now is the massive preparations for electoral fraud, mostly related to the preparation of brigades of fake voters who will be able to multiply vote in different precincts. So brigades of fake voters would go from precinct to precinct and vote using different passports forged by the police for this specific purpose. Now, we understand that one of the possibilities to try to prevent this massive fraud is the cooperation between the parties. And that's why 4 political forces, the Armenian National Congress, Armenian Revolutionary Federation, Dashnaktutu, Heritage Party, and Prosperous Armenia Party have formed a united headquarters for resistance to this electoral fraud. And we are now discussing within this structure the methods of cooperation in the electoral commissions during the day of the voting that would allow us to prevent fraud. We know that the regime of Serge Sarkisyan and the ruling Republican Party is the chief organizer, perpetrator, and implementer of the fraud in Armenia. So, in a sense, you can believe that this is a united front against the Republican Party's efforts to once again steal the elections.
Will there be mass protests assuming significant violations were found during the elections?
I believe certainly there will be mass protests if once again the regime blatantly violates the human rights and electoral rights of the people. The people of Armenia are not going to tolerate another fraud. And that's why we have applied to the mayor's office of Yerevan, bringing applications for holding demonstrations the days after the elections. We applied for 7 days, 7 consecutive days, starting from May 8th. We are going to protest if there will be once again massive fraud. The people will rise. Nobody is going to tolerate another falsification. We will not allow the Republican Party, the regime, once again to steal the victory from the people.
I want to ask you briefly about the public opinion of the Congress. There was a poll taken called the My Opinion poll on March 27th where 26% approved of the Congress. In a Gallup poll taken between the 4th and the 10th of this month, it showed that the Republican Party had 34% support and the ANC had 6.7% support. How do you explain that difference?
Very easy. You don't have to trust any polls in Armenia. Why? We are not living in a democratic society where people are brave enough to express themselves openly. Of course, parts of our society speak openly, but there are also people who were subject to systematic intimidation during these years and who know that expressing openly their opinion would have consequences for them. Their businesses would be destroyed. The criminal gangs will intimidate them, the criminal gangs controlled by the ruling regime, etc., etc. So people never speak honestly when visited by pollsters. In fact, you will see that the ruling Republican Party always get leading majority in those polls. Very easily explicable. People are afraid to speak about their affiliation with other parties, especially with the Armenian National Congress, which is considered by this regime as the biggest enemy of the regime. And that's why, while the Gallup polls would give only 4% to Ter-Petrosyan in 2008, according to the official results only, Ter-Petrosyan received 21.5%. In fact, according to the American diplomats, I'm speaking about the estimations revealed in the WikiLeaks, Ter-Petrosyan got 35% or more. I'm referring to this fact to show how unreliable are the polls in Armenia.
How confident are you about the Armenian National Congress taking a majority in parliament?
Well, I'm pretty sure if there were absolutely legal, free and fair elections in Armenia, if there was no possibility for voter bribing, for inflation of voter lists, for intimidation, we would score majority in this parliament. But I also understand that we live in a real world, in real Armenia, where everything I listed is present. And I think that taken in account the possibilities of regime to falsify the elections, we should be able to score around 30%.
So let's say, for instance, that the Republicans retain their majority. What can the Armenian National Congress, as well as the other opposition parties, in other words, working together collectively, what will be able to achieve, since the Republican Party will still be able to essentially pass or reject any bill that's introduced?
Well, I would show you three levels of possible achievement for us. The biggest level would be getting the majority. Then immediately we would, as I said, we would initiate the impeachment procedure. We would form the new government of Armenia, and we would conduct all radical reforms that we, in fact, propose. The second level of achievement would be, which I believe is more realistic, is to destroy the confident majority that the Republican Party has in the parliament. That is a very important goal. Look, the biggest leverage that this government, the ruling regime, is using to retain their power is holding this big majority in the parliament that allows them to hold political monopoly in this country. So what we are now trying to achieve with other political forces is to destroy this monopoly, to destroy this confident majority of the Republicans in the parliament. If we are able to achieve that, we will be able to make some coalitions with other political forces, and why not to establish the government of national unity in Armenia. If we are not, and the third, the lowest level of achievement would be to have strong presence in the parliament without being able to diminish the role of Republican Party in the parliament. Then, this is the worst scenario. We are discussing the worst scenario. Then, our biggest mission would be to serve as counterbalance to these authorities, to raise issues, to stage protests, to serve checks and balances for this government.
In my interview with Levon, he stressed that these elections are very important, and that they would be, quote, the last straw in terms of making the democratic process work in Armenia. Do you agree?
Well, this is really a historic chance. I don't know whether that would be the last chance, but if we fail, I can agree with the statement that that would mean failure for many years to come for Armenia. So this is the biggest opportunity we ever had. Why? There are several factors that contribute to that feeling. One is that we have united opposition, very well organized and institutional opposition of the Armenian National Congress, which leads the national movement and people of Armenia for 4 years already, without even being represented in any political institutions of Armenia. The second factor is the attention that the international community attributes to these coming elections. The European Union even makes the multi-billion-dollar aid to Armenia conditional on the conduct of these elections. The international community is finally concentrated on the elections of Armenia to be held really free and fair manner. That's the second factor. And the third, which is a recent development, and very important development, is that we were able to unite not only the opposition, but also one powerful member of the ruling coalition, meaning the Prosperous Armenia Party. Those political forces are now united in their resistance to the efforts of the Republican Party to steal the elections. Those are unprecedented developments. And if we are not able to capitalize on this would be a major failure for our nation, for our society. I think there are all preconditions to be able to unite our nation around the goal of achieving democracy in Armenia.
Finally, what do you tell apathetic citizens, people who think that nothing will change in these elections, no matter how they vote? Whether they vote for the authorities or for the opposition?
My message is very clear. If you don't go to precincts, you're giving your vote to these authorities. They are going to use it for their falsification schemes. Go and vote. Otherwise, you are selling the future of your children.